little bit about your plans. You had some emotion there, especially in that last plan about making the city affordable. Do you think that really translated to the audience and to the council, which you're going to need their help on that issue in the next week?
Yeah, I think what's so powerful about the truth of where we are in affordable housing is this is an issue that affects everybody in the city. If you are not personally struggling with affordable housing, you have a child that you want to be able to live here, or a parent that's trying to afford to live here, or a neighbor or a friend. And so it is the issue that is threatening, I think, the vitality of the city the most. And we want to make sure this remains a city where everybody feels welcome and included. We don't push people out of neighborhoods or price them out in neighborhoods. And so I think that is the biggest crisis we're facing the year ahead. That's why we're pushing all in on this ballot measure in November. That's why I thought today was an important opportunity to make the case for why this is what's next.
I'm with the Front Porch newspaper, so
Yes,
Northeast
I know it well. My kids read it all the time.
Oh,
It's
good.
like the
But not
newspaper.
you?
I do too.
Okay.
I'm just saying they don't read so much of the citywide, but they love the Front Porch.
You know, you still have several districts that don't have transitional housing for folks. A lot
Yes.
of folks in Northeast Denver, Central Park in particular, are still kind of mad that so much of the burden has been on them. How soon will you be able to say that you have transitional housing in all the districts, or have you given up on that idea?
I've never given up. I think we see it as a continuum, because now we're about to, if we're successful in the ballot measure, we'll be trying to put up thousands of units of affordable housing every year across the city. And those also be the same question of where do those go and how do we distribute that across the city. And so we view it as a balancing. You know, there were some districts that had previously existing shelters. Some had new all-in sites. Some will have high density of affordable housing as we build that out. So we view it as balancing it across all three of these different types of services. But we think some version of those services should and will exist in every district.
Just real quick, Mayor, how will, other than the sales tax proposal that you've got, how will spending priorities change for the city and for your administration moving into next year, given that we're kind of in the middle of, or the start of budget season? So
Yeah. I'll let you know on a little dilemma that I'm managing, which is the strange thing about the city is that our budget calendar runs January to January, but our state of the city comes in the middle of the year. So as you remember, we set goals from January to December, but the state of the city sort of wanted you to announce all the things that are coming next. We're sort of already, it's really more of a halftime report for us because we're 6 months into the goals we laid out for this year. But as you said, what we're doing right now is we're starting with our cabinet to set our goals for 2025 and then to align the budget to those goals. So in the next 2 months, we'll be doing both all of our citywide goal setting and all the department level goal setting, and then align the budget to those top priorities. And so then we'll come out with budget in September, and the goals will come out later, probably in November. But this year we really want to do those at the same time, because in the past you can set a budget and then 3 months later we set a set of goals for 2024 and they already had a budget committed. It's harder to make space for those priorities. So we're going to now do goal setting and budget together.
but nothing specific that you'd like to call attention to ahead of this process?
I mean, I think we're just beginning. So I want to say, I mean, the things that you heard about today will continue to be important. Obviously, vibrant, affordable, and safe is not going to go away. Public safety, we know, economic development, and housing will also be top priorities for 2025 for sure. I think there may be other additional priorities we'll add, and that's what we'll talk about with the county and the city leaders.
As we're looking at this kind of cliff of ARPA funding,
Yes.
City Council is pretty concerned about the budget, potential cuts in 2025. Can you speak to the reality of that, and also kind of what the plan is moving forward with these two major priorities that have really depended on ARPA funding?
Yeah, and this was one of the most important reasons why we looked at the need for the Affordable Denver Fund, as we saw even this year. In the past several years, the pace has been about 1,500 units of affordable housing each year. Great progress with things like the EHA or the previous sales tax not make that possible. This year we're stretching to get to 3,000 units a year, and that's going to be a hard task for us. We're using a lot of ARPA funds to get there. To meet the total need, we got to get closer to 5,000 units a year, and to do that minus $100 million a year in ARPA. So we have to do more with a whole lot less, and that math was going to be impossible. So that was why that was the most important place where the ARPA cliff is going to hit the city. Right at the moment, that's our biggest need. And so that was why we focused on this as the key step. And the benefit is, if we didn't, we would have had to pull funds from a bunch of other departments to try to make affordable housing happen. We think this both puts us on path to make affordable housing successful, but also to be able to provide more protection to other priorities around the city budget.
And will there be cuts in 2025?
We don't have, I guess it depends. If the ballot measure passes, we have a much better path on the housing side. I think we are looking to build a budget towards what we'll do for migrants in 2025. No way to be certain yet, we're prepared for that. I think we have a structurally sound budget for 25. The thing that will change is what do the tax returns look like. There is some signs of softening in the economy regionally that we're tracking. And so if we are facing shortages in 25, that would be just revenue shortages from changes in spending habits, not a structural budget challenge. We don't have those right now.
A theme in your speech, you always want to reflect the movement. You don't want to stand still. You don't want to be affirmed by doubt, I think is one of the phrases you said. But does movement require money? There's concerns, a couple council members, about dollar figures, about large projects. Some residents are saying, wow, we're backing up the money truck for this hotel that we're purchasing or that project. Can you just talk about that? Does it always require money movement?
Yeah, there are a lot of times where doing things better just requires doing them differently without changing the cost. To give an example, these trust patrols that we're doing as a part of our public safety strategy, that does not require new money or new officers, it just requires using our officers' time differently. Same with the hotspot patrols, which is identifying those places in your district where you have the highest levels of crime, make sure we have some officer getting by there every 2 hours. So there are a lot of things we can do, I think, by doing work differently or doing it better. There are some things that require additional revenue. Housing is a good example. You can't build 1,000 more units off just working harder. You're going to need financing to help make those units possible. So we think it's some of both. We're trying every place we can to reduce costs, to control budgets, and to find ways to work smarter and harder with not making it more expensive. And there are some places where more impact will require more resources, but that's why we'll go to others for that.
The Park Hill Golf Course looks horrible right now. Dead grass, the trees are dying. Is your administration any closer to some kind of creative solution to the problem there?
We are in the midst of active negotiations on the future of the Park Hill Golf Course. And we're,
Any hints of what it might look like?
No, we're optimistic that we're making progress, and we'll get to a solution that the community will be excited about. But we've been at this for several months, and it's complicated negotiations. But we're pushing aggressively, and I'm optimistic about it. That is something we certainly plan to get resolved in this year.
Great.
Alcalde, para el semanario, sabemos que los hispanos y los nuevos vecinos llegan a hacer un cambio en la dinámica económica y social de la ciudad. ¿Qué nuevos planes hay para esta comunidad que acaba de llegar o que ha llegado desde el 2023 y lo que queda el resto del año?
¿De los migrantes o de la gente que han llegado
Sí,
antes?
en general, los migrantes
Sí,
en general
sí.
que han llegado.
Hay algunas cosas que son importantes por el año que viene. La primera es que queremos hacer más para asegurar que toda la gente que vive aquí pueden tener casas aquí, porque en este momento no hay demasiado casas accesibles por gente para vivir. Y vamos a hacer más para aumentar los números de casas accesibles. También tenemos que hacer más para hacer todos los barrios seguros, porque sabemos que hemos tenido tiempos difíciles por el crimen y vamos a poner más policía, pero también policía que van a venir para visitar con los barrios y hablar y escuchar a personas a ver lo que necesitan, más que solo llegando para tomar gente. Entonces, esas son unas cosas que creo que gente va a ver en el año que viene, y también vamos a trabajar en aumentando la ciudad aquí en el centro, donde vamos a abrir el 16th Street Mall otra vez y vamos a aumentar los negocios y más casas accesibles también aquí en el centro.
Okay, gracias.
Yes.
Just to recap, Mayor, you asked this was a lot about looking back, but also looking forward. You had some asks for Denver. What are those asks again? If you want to reiterate what you're asking the voters to do for you over the next year.
Yeah, our big ask is we need the city to commit to keeping Denver affordable, and to do that, we need them to choose to support our Affordable Denver Fund, and it's going to happen. We think that is the way that we can actually bring the units on that will allow us to protect the families who are here and want to stay. But without courageous action here, we worry that Denver will start losing too many families who can't afford to stay. In all these places where we can, we're looking to do deed restrictions on them, which means they're financed. You have the debate about, I'm glad you asked this, the debate about, like, are you for rent control or are you not? I'm not for rent control because it doesn't work to take a unit that's already built on a certain set of financial assumptions and then add a control on price. What we do instead is finance the construction of these units up front and say, we want this unit to have a deed restriction that's permanent or semi-permanent, and in exchange, we'll help cover some of the cost of the construction so you can make it pencil. So the goal is, wherever we can, long-term deed restrictions, that even if the person that owns the building can't sell it to an out-of-state investor, and you get your rent jacked up, then if once you live in that unit, the rule would be you never pay more than 30% of your income to rent, no matter who owns it. So to get that safely in place, our goal is deed restrictions wherever we can.
Sweet, thank you, Mayor.
Thanks,
Great to see
guys.
you all. Thanks.